You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So I'm told YouTube has reinitiated those 30-second commercials. So there's a good chance as the show starts that you're not going to be able to see the first 30 seconds of this. And I don't want to waste good stuff. So, all right, that should be long enough. Let's give you the cold open that I got. Let's see. Now my notes are out of place. Okay. So we're going to start political because everything is political nowadays. So we're going to start with a political story. And it's about current President Joe Biden, U.S. President Joe Biden. And it turns out that unlike some presidents, Joe Biden really is just a regular down-to-earth guy. He's currently vacationing in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware this week. And he and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, decided to take in a movie. Now, we've heard, when the Obamas were there or Trump was there, they would take in a movie, they would screen it in the White House. Well, they're not in the White House. So they actually went to a movie theater. And they got about 7 rows back. They got about half of a row by themselves, but it's the middle of the week. The odds are it's not going to be completely full. And they went to the movies, and I thought that was really cool. I love the idea that Joe would take Jill out on a little movie date on his vacation. Now, if you're curious what they saw, it turns out they saw Oppenheimer. And, the press corps that follows him around everywhere asked what he thought of the movie, and he said it was compelling. Now, contrary to some reports, Biden was not an active senator at the time that the bombs were dropped. He was only 3 at the time. But the interesting thing for me was the fact that they basically got in the theater and they stayed there through the entire movie until the end, which I think is impressive as hell for not just an 80-year-old man, but I know that I can't sit through a 2-hour movie without having to go to the bathroom. So good on Joe. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is Wednesday, August 2nd. Hello to Ed, to Cool, to Triple B, and to Kenneth. We got JD on the board. And to respond to JD, he says, I thought it would be Rocky Horror Picture Show. I am fairly sure that Joe Biden had already seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He probably used to go to the midnight screenings dressed as either Dr. Frankenfurter or as Brad. Probably Brad. I can see that. All right. We have a ton of news. But before we get to it, let me just remind you guys, we have hit our 2,000 subscribers. So there will be 20 slabs given away starting August 6th through that week, I believe. I'm not sure exactly the schedule, and we're not going to tell you the exact schedule anyway, because we want you to tune into all the shows. It's kind of how it works. So you'll want to start tuning in starting August 6th. You want to catch all the shows. You want to get your friends to watch. This is the time to teach your children to watch, even if they're like 4 or 5 years old. Just put it on their phones or put it on a phone, have them watch, and we'll get this thing kick off. And I'll probably have 1 or 2 to give away as well. So tune in to The Experience all next week, starting on Sunday, for your chance to win a free slabbed comic. JD says, he slept through it. If you're the president and get a chance to take a 3-hour nap, you take the chance. I don't know. For him, it's got to be, kind of a look back at his youth. I mean, he was born in 42. The bomb dropped in 45. So he would at least have some kind of sense of everybody being kind of upset or excited or however people, I don't even know how people reacted to dropping the bombs. I mean, was that the, oh my God, what have we done? Or was that, yay, USA, USA? I don't know. I would like to think that it's the, oh my God, what have we done? But I have a feeling it was the other one. So, all right. Shall we do the news? I think we should do the news. All right. We got a lot of news today, and we're going to end with a pretty big update on a popular comic writer, but we will get to that one. We're going to start off with it seems they wanted to release the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie, which is put together by Seth Rogen, a little early. So it got a midweek start here in the States. And Tuesday it took in 3.85 million, which is really good. Now, the show started about 2 p.m. and is directed by Jeff Rowe. They're guessing it's going to be between 30 and 40 million on the high end over the 5 days. But of course, they're a little worried because, the film made 70 million. So if they can get back 40 million over the first weekend, 30 to 40 million, that's a good chunk. And it's booked into like 3,500 theaters right now. It'll expand another maybe 350 theaters by Friday. But the studio is a little worried because that Barbenheimer thing is still going strong. They're still raking in the money. Barbie is expected to break 1 billion worldwide this weekend. Oppenheimer is doing way better than they ever expected. So any movies coming out right now are having to deal with this atomic juggernaut. Atomic plastic? Plastic atomic? I don't know. So they're worried about that. But JD says, saw it, funny, pretty, worth a watch. Definitely meant for teen audiences, though. Oh, I'm assuming you mean the Turtles movie and not Barbie. Might be Barbie. Plastomic. I like that. Plastomic. All right. Any horror movie fans? We got a couple bit of horror news today. This one is interesting. The late George Romero penned a final zombie movie called Twilight of the Dead prior to his passing. Now, finally, things may be moving forward. Producer, financier Roundtable Entertainment says that they are planning to work with the George A. Romero estate to put this film together, and it's going to be filming in Puerto Rico later this year. Now, this will be the 7th and final installment of the seminal Living Dead franchise. Like I said, Romero had written a treatment for the movie before he passed in 2017 and regarded Twilight of the Dead as the conclusion to his epic saga, which, the 6 other movies, there's some spin-offs and remakes. Now, the project was first revealed in 2021, but it's been just kind of sitting around. Writers and stuff, that'll all come after the WGA strike, but at least it's kind of getting moving. So we'll get back to some more horror news in a minute. All right, let's move over to on August 9th, which is Wednesday next week? Maybe it's Thursday, probably Thursday. Disney is going to drop the first 7 episodes of its adaptation of a Korean artist Kang Full's moving webtoon worldwide on Hulu and Disney Plus. Directed by Park In-ji, who did Kingdom Season 2, the 20-episode series tells the story of 3 teenagers who have inherited unusual powers from their secret agent parents. While on the surface they look like ordinary high school kids, each has the power to transcend a different physical limitation like gravity, speed, or pain. But with the outside forces keen to exploit these talents, their parents know it's safer to keep them hidden away. Now, Kang Full, who created the series, also wrote the screenplay, or created the comics here, webtoon, is writing the screenplay for the adaptation, and which debuted originally on Kakao's platform back in 2015. The Pitbull story. Okay, not sure I get that one.
The rapper known as Pitbull has also nicknamed Mr. Worldwide.
Oh.
That was the humor joke I was going for.
Shows you know how much I know and care about Pitbull. I think Pitbull, I think of the Awesome Dogs. That's all I need. All right, the WGA has confirmed that it will sit down with the AMPTP on Friday to try to put an end to the writers' strike that had been going on since May 2nd. Now, the Guild sent a note to its members Tuesday that said the AMPTP, through Carol Lombardi, reached out to the WGA today, requested a meeting this Friday to discuss negotiations. We'll be back in communication with you sometime after the meeting with further information. As we said before, be wary of rumors. Whenever there is an important news to share, you'll hear it directly from us. This came from the WGA's negotiating committee. Now, it's interesting that they are talking to the WGA, but not SAG. The WGA is the one that's been out the longest, so it makes sense, but it seems like they're going to have to deal with both of these. So maybe they're just trying to get the WGA out of the way and go from there. Maybe they feel there's more problems with the SAG and they might be able to get WGA. So fingers crossed that they get at least one of these strikes done and we can start working towards semblance of normalcy again. All right. Marvel and DC have updated the timeline for the MCU up through and including Secret Invasion. The order of projects post-Endgame goes like this. Starts with Loki, even though that wasn't the first Phase 4 thing to come out. It starts with Loki. Then What If, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Spider-Man No Way Home, Far From Home, then Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, The Eternals, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Thor Love and Thunder, Werewolf by Night, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Secret Invasion. Now you might notice something is missing. Spider-Man No Way Home is not on this list. And the reason it's not is because this list has to do with Disney+. This is how they tell you to watch these stories chronologically on Disney+. And Spider-Man No Way Home is not yet on Disney+. So the odds are that it takes place before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, probably after the Eternals, or at least somewhere between Shang-Chi and Eternals is that. So the other interesting thing is, I guess I didn't realize that Loki was considered the first project of Phase 4, the first Endgame project, which kind of makes sense being that it is picking up right after he gets the Tesseract. So the only thing is when you do these timelines, they're not really good examples because they take place over time. So just because WandaVision is before the Falcon and Winter Soldier doesn't mean that the end of WandaVision isn't, where does that fall? Did Falcon and Winter Soldier start before Spider-Man Far From Home, but did it end before it? I mean, these are just kind of rough guides. So there's a timeline book coming out for Marvel, supposedly, I think it's in September, and that'll give us a more official idea of that. And I'm looking forward to it. I've got the Star Wars timeline book down here somewhere. There it is. And there's going to be a Marvel one, so I'm looking forward to getting that. All right, let's move on to speaking to comicbook.com. In an interview, this might surprise some of you guys. In an interview conducted before the SAG strike, actress Gal Gadot announced that there are still plans to develop Wonder Woman 3 at DC Studios. She says, "I love portraying Wonder Woman. It's so close to and dear to my heart. From what I heard from James and from Peter is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together. Things are being worked behind the scenes, and once the right moment arrives, you'll know about it." Now, this kind of surprises me because it feels like that what they need to do is a full-on reboot. Get rid of Ezra, and they're already getting rid of Ben, and they're getting rid of Henry. There's talk about maybe moving Jason from Aquaman to Lobo. So keeping Gal Gadot is kind of an interesting idea. She's great as Wonder Woman, don't get me wrong. I think she's awesome. But then I thought Henry Cavill was a great Superman. I thought Batman was Ben Affleck was a great Batman. I can't say that about Ezra Miller. I am not a fan of their portrayal of the character. That has nothing to do with all the weird stuff he did. I just didn't like him as them as Barry Allen. But it's interesting to me. One of the things that they talked about with Henry Cavill was he's 40 years old now, and they want to do a 10-year plan, which means Superman would be 50 by the time they get through the 10-year plan. Well, Gal Gadot's 38. So they're going to have a 40-year-old Wonder Woman through most of this, which again, I don't have a problem with. I think Gal Gadot is great. If they want to stick with her, I'm all for it. But it just kind of seems opposite of what they're thinking with their other characters. So, all right, well, let's get back to some horror news. Wonder Woman 3 to wrap up the series as an Elseworlds. That's possible. That would be interesting. Ed says, "That's disappointing. I was hoping for a full reboot, start fresh, see where they go. This is going to amplify the haters for not keeping Cavill and Affleck." Yeah, I agree. There is strong reasons to just cut bait and move on. So, all right. So the next installment in the Scream series looks to have landed a director. Christopher Landon, who did Happy Death Day, has signed on to direct the sequel. Spyglass Entertainment is producing the pick again, and Landon will take over for Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, the filmmakers who kind of collectively are known as Radio Silence. Hello, Vol. Volviz, okay, Vol. They helped relaunch the franchise, directing the past 2 installments. They, along with the partner Chad Villela, will remain on as executive producers. Paramount is expected back as distributor. The film currently has no writer, though, because of the WGA strike. All right, now we're going to go into a bit of a bigger news story here. This has to do with a very popular writer and some pretty serious stuff. If you're a fan of Donny Cates, you may have noticed that as the writer has kind of disappeared. He was working on a lot of big Marvel projects and some Substack stuff and image books. Well, all of that just seemed to disappear. We now know what happened to Donnie. Now, it starts with Comic Pop Returns, a YouTube channel, had the first update. they say, we ran into Donny Cates on the floor at San Diego Comic-Con. He came out from hiding, and he asked us to mention on the show this piece of information to folks out there. It seems Donny Cates apparently was involved in an automobile accident. He was severely injured, and he has the scars to prove it. He broke a bone near the ocular area and went through a severe period of rehabilitation and is now trying to essentially recover the pieces of his life. And so he doesn't remember the last 6 months, at least. Also, in a later thing, they also talked about how he went through a divorce in the last year as well. So it has not been a very good year for Donny Cates. Now, the writer went on to talk to Bleeding Cool and Rich Johnston, and he gave a little more details on what's going on. Cates said, I was in the back seat of a car pulling off the highway when we were hit by a truck from behind, sending my head into not just the middle console, but also my open laptop. The results of which shattered my orbital socket, sliced my head open like a grape, and caused a not insignificant amount of bleeding on my brain. So yeah, for me, I was in a car heading to the airport, and then boom, kind of teleported to a hospital ER with no real idea of what the hell had happened or who I was. Not my favorite thing that has happened this year, and it's been a weird year. He went on to say, I'm back on the mend, and it's better every day. The good news is that I've had the opportunity to read my own books and have them all be a surprise. Did you know Cosmic Ghost Rider is actually Frank Castle? Wild. I'd like to say I'm sorry to all my fans and friends and YouTube trolls, whoever else if it is seemed like I just disappeared. I've had to relearn how to tie my own shoes and feed myself and all that boring crap. But I assure you, a little brain damage won't stop me from doing whatever it is that I do that you all seem to enjoy so much. So that is an update on Donny Cates. We here at The Experience wish him all the absolute best on a speedy recovery. And he got regarding Henry. Yep. So yeah, that's the big breaking news. It just came out a little while ago. So again, all our best to Donny Cates. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the final season of Jack Ryan. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales. To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds, a promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com today.
Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons and remember to stick around. We got a big lineup today. Right after this, well, not right after this. There's an hour break, but Comic Collectibles at its new time. And then Talk and Treat Trivia with Joe Solis from Child's Play Comics will be Chuck's guest. Then we have 360 Comics, 360 Comics, and Henri is back, and he's got some FOMO books, or the fear of missing out books. FOMO is a term that I've recently learned. I didn't know what the hell FOMO was, because I don't necessarily suffer from FOMO, because it's like, you might not get this, I don't care. So I guess if it mattered to me, I would know the word. But I'm also one of those curmudgeons who hates new terminology that a lot of younger people use. So Ed says, did he lose his eye, in reference to Donny Cates? I'm going to say no, because there's a couple photos of him in what appears to be a hospital bed, and he's bruised, but it looks like the majority of the damage is on above his right eye towards the center of the brain, or center of his forehead, and a bruise here on the cheek. But the eye itself looks intact. So his eyes are closed, but I'm guessing now, had he lost his eye, they probably would have had some kind of bandage or patch over it. So I'm going to say no, he didn't. It sounds more like it was cranial damage or brain damage, not that. Nick says, I saw Donnie at SDC. He looks much better and is fully doing better. That is great news, Nick. Thank you. Yeah, the reports are that he was at San Diego Con going around. So, yeah, this all took place in the last year or so, or 6 months to a year. So, hey, Bronze. Yeah, it is great to hear that he's healing up. So we, like I said, everybody here at the Experience sends our best his way. So, all right. Let's talk about Jack Ryan. And Jack Ryan is kind of an interesting character. In a lot of ways, he is the American James Bond, but not quite. He's the American James Bond, but he's more of a thought or a thinking man's James Bond. He's an CIA analyst. He's not really the action guy, or at least in the beginning he isn't, or supposed to be. And this is a character that was created back in 1984 by Tom Clancy. There are 21 novels in the series. So again, kind of James Bond-like, that there's this huge collection of source material for him. This is a character I think would be great in comic books. I would love to write this character. I think he'd be a lot of fun, whether you're adapting some of the novels or doing new stories. The current Prime series that just ended is all new material. They're not adapting the novels, but they're trying to keep a lot of what's in those novels, at least, so it doesn't go against them. It's also a character that has been portrayed by a lot of big actors. You know, it started off with Alec Baldwin in Hunt for Red October. Then Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger was Harrison Ford. They did kind of a soft reboot of it with Ben Affleck in Sum of All Fears. They did a full reboot of it with Chris Pine in Shadow Recruit. And then they did this series with John Krasinski. And at the time, Krasinski was probably the least well known of any of the actors to take on the role. So he was also not necessarily what you would think of. I mean, most people know John Krasinski from his time on The Office. Now, he's expanded out since. But back in 2019, I think it was, when he took on this role, a lot of people questioned it because he was just Jim from The Office. You know? But that first season brought a lot of people around. And it's surprising to me, after the success the series has had, that they brought it to an end. Because they did kind of build this thing up where it could just keep going. And the story arc of the character is pretty amazing. I mean, 13 Hours was in 2016. Okay, fair enough. The Jack Ryan we get in the first season is not very sure of himself. He's not a field guy. He's a behind-the-desk analyst that just happens upon information and starts putting things together and takes him out of the office, puts him with Wendell Vaughn's character of James Greer, Wendell Pierce, who is another regular character from the series, which Wendell Pierce does a great job as Greer. And this is a role who's been played by a couple different people, but most notably was James Earl Jones. So they did a good job with that, but they also made him more of an action guy too. But they didn't. The thing is that at no point did they pick people to play these characters that would make you think action heroes. You know, John Krasinski, like I said, didn't come across as an action hero at the time. For those who don't know, he played a military contractor in an action-heavy film portrayed a dramatization of the Benghazi incident. Right. 13 Hours, yeah. I had forgotten about that, but so yeah, okay, it does make a little more sense. But again, most people don't know him that way. It's his most popular role is Jim. But my point is that you don't look at him and think action hero. You know, if they had put Chris Hemsworth in it, or, you know, I mean, yeah, they've never really cast an action hero in that role. They've always gone more of a cerebral person. Harrison Ford can do action, but you don't think of him as the Arnold Schwarzenegger type, you know? So it's an interesting character. Wendell Pierce is not who you think of when you think of an action show. Casting of Mike November, the CIA operative, that helps him out a lot. They went with Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly from, was it Veep? Stuff like that. Is it Veep? No, I don't remember it off the top of my head. Yeah, Mike November. Mike Kelly is, well, he's done a lot of action stuff. Transformers, House of Cards. That's it. House of Cards is one I was trying to think of. But Mike Kelly, again, he usually plays like the senator or the military guy, not really the big action person. And then this final season, they made one of the most interesting casts. And again, I know that Michael Pena has done some action stuff like Shooter, things like that. But they make him into a badass CIA operative that by the last episodes, you're thinking that this guy can do just about anything. And that's not how I picture Michael Pena. So I find it fascinating that they did this because it makes a lot of sense. You know, CIA operatives, a lot of times they're supposed to blend. They're not supposed to look like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and the casting works that way. I think it actually works really well. So, but all of them carry themselves, especially in the final season, with a level of confidence that makes you buy into the whole thing. You know, you don't get that from Jack in the first season, and he doesn't have it. Hasn't earned it. You don't get that in the second season, but he's a little better. He's not flailing about trying to get things done. In the third season, he's starting to get that confidence, and in the fourth season, he's on it. Oh shoot, I haven't watched this season. He's dang awesome. Wasn't he also in End of Watch? Yeah, he plays Domingo. So and by casting Pena, and you've got Kelly, and you've got Pierce Still, you've got these characters, so they could move on and do other things in the Ryan universe. And that's kind of the feeling you get by the end of the series, is you get this moment with all of them collected together in front of the Capitol building. And you get that feeling like, okay, maybe we're not going to get season 5 of Jack Ryan, but we might get Rainbow Six, or we might get some other story that focuses on Domingo Chavez or on Mike November, and follow that storyline. And I think that would be great. You know, if Krasinski has branched out, he's directing now, he gets mentioned for a lot of big movies. So tying himself to a TV series at this point is probably against what he wants to do. So leaving himself open where he can just jump in as a cameo. And if you're familiar with the Jack Ryan character, most of what we've seen adapted, he's always just been the CIA analyst, or, there's a list of the jobs he has. He goes from being a second lieutenant in the Marines to he's actually a CPA at one point, professor in the U.S. Naval Academy, a CIA analyst, a CIA special assistant to the DI, CIA acting deputy director for intelligence. I don't know if we got to that in the movies. We do get that in here. This series, the season finale, takes him to that level. But as the novels progress, he goes on to be the deputy director of the CIA, national security advisor at one point. He goes on to be the U.S. vice president, and then eventually the U.S. president. So, like I said, there's 21 novels of just Jack Ryan. There's a handful of them based on his son, Jack Ryan Jr., and then there's spinoffs like Rainbow Six and stuff like that. There's video games off of it. I mean, they have really done a lot with this character. But again, I think he should absolutely hop into comics, because I think he'd be fun. Tom Clancy world can be deep. Rainbow stuff can be deep. Rainbow stuff is good. Now, I know there's another Tom Clancy movie, which name escapes me, on Prime, that stars Michael B. Jordan. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I've heard mixed reviews of it, but that does show that they have, I think it's No Remorse, something like that. That does show that they have the rights to more, Without Remorse, thank you. They have more than just Jack. So I'm hoping they will continue this, expand it, have Jack pop up in more of a supporting character role at that point. You know, the guy that fights for them in Washington, the guy that gives them the missions and things like that. But it does feel like a passing of the torch this season. The season itself is shorter than any of the others. All the other ones were 8. This one was only 6. it feels a bit rushed and a bit loose. You know, all the first 3 seasons, there was a definitive driving force in the story. You know, it got bigger, it got more dangerous, it ramped up every episode. Things happened that you weren't expecting. Even season 3, which wasn't that long ago, was that way. You know, it involved Russia and Ukraine, and it was, you know, I was a little surprised at the subject matter at that time, but there was an intensity that she understood. This one, it felt a little generic, like they were trying to play it a little safe. You know, they're using Mexican mobs and drug moving, you know, and bombs and stuff. So it was a decent plot. It's a decent season. And it does move the characters along nicely. You get just about everybody back that we've had repeating characters. But it felt like they could have done 2 more episodes and given a little more to the characters. The most underused character in the entire series is his girlfriend, wife, Kathy Mueller, played by Abby Cornish. Now, Cornish does a fine job, but they don't give her much to work with, which is funny because she's just kind of a supporting character for the first 3 series that is, you know, it's like, oh, he's got a girl he likes. But she doesn't really pertain to the story that much. In this one, they bring her into the story, bring her into danger, yet still don't give her much. She is totally girl hostage in this. They don't really get, you know, she doesn't really get an emotional range. And it's kind of a disservice to the actress, who I'm sure could have done great stuff if it was part of the story. But all of her scenes felt more like she was the MacGuffin. It's like, oh, the bad guys need something to use against Jack. We'll take his girlfriend. And again, that just felt like a disservice. This is definitely my least favorite of the 4 seasons. But when you look at the whole thing as a whole, I think it's a great series. They do a great job with Jack. They boil him down from the beginning. They give you a good character arc. Krasinski is wonderful in the role. You can see him growing, his confidence, growing his abilities as it goes. You can see the trust that the people around him gain as they go. It's not a situation where the guy just becomes the leader, or he just everybody trusts him. He earns that trust over time and is fighting it. And it even gets called out in the final season how he has this tendency to go against orders and to do things unconventional, and it's held against him. So from that point of view, I think a lot of that was handled well. I think the final season was just rushed and didn't really take the time to allow the supporting characters to really grow. Michael Peña's character is a lot of fun, but he could have used a little more time. Michael Kelly's character of Mike November has been around since the beginning. He's always fun, but we don't know anything about him outside of the the moments he's on screen. We don't learn anything about his life other than I think we run into an ex-wife or something of his in the 3rd season. So I think Mike November is somebody we could definitely do a lot more with. He is such a fun character. So again, this is a series, if you haven't watched it, all 4 seasons are now available. You could binge it, and I think you would enjoy it. If you are into spy thrillers, if you like any of the other previous stuff, Hunt for Red October, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, Sum of All Fears, Shadow Recruit, any of those. There are no submarines, though. So if Hunt for Red October is your thing because you like submarines and Sean Connery being a Scottish Russian, you're a little lacking on that. Other than that, it's got everything you'd want. They do a good job of picking the villains. They don't come across as scene chewers. There's a reason for them. You understand their motivation a lot of times. Or at least they're a little more three-dimensional than you get sometimes in series. Any fish people asking for a friend? No, they do. Well, I think one of the season has a Navy SEAL. It's about as close as it gets. So, yeah, like I said, though, I would love to see them do more on Prime. I'd really love to see this character explored in comics because I think you could do some of the serial stuff that you did in this series, which they've never done before. You get novels, you get these big stories, but it would be interesting to see them start to do some of these serialized stuff in comics where you don't have a budget. You know, you're not restricted by budgets and casting and stuff like that. So I think this would be a really fun series. Yeah, it's one of the two Jacks that I think should definitely go to comics, Jack Reacher being the other one. So, and there's a second season of Jack Reacher coming up, and I'm really looking forward to that too. This is kind of my wheelhouse. Mysteries and thrillers like this are things I absolutely love outside of comics and stuff. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead. We will take our final break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you guys about other things that we could do on the show. So we'll be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time. You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Remember to stick around for comic collectibles starting not immediately next, but an hour, and then Talk and Treat Trivia with Chuck and his guest Joe Solis. And then we have 360 Comics and Henri with some FOMO auctions tonight. So you want to stick around for all of that. Bronze, I completely agree that season 1 of Reacher was great. Now, I watched both Tom Cruise movies of Reacher, and I enjoyed them well enough. And then I read the novels, and I got why some people were really upset. Because Jack Reacher is supposed to be a behemoth. He's supposed to be like 6'9". And while Alan Ritchson isn't 6'9", they did a really good job of making him feel that way by casting some shorter actors and just giving the character the full force of nature. You know, it's like he's his own cave troll. Comic collectibles at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern, yeah, 7 p.m. Pacific. So, what JD says, but the neat thing with the Jack Reacher series is the book series changes supporting cast every book. So Finley and Roscoe, who were great characters in the first one, aren't around in the second. Brown says, I really enjoyed the first Cruise movie, though. The mental part was good, just missed the physicality. Agreed. You know, but they've done something with season 2, which is unique, is that in season 1, they introduced probably the closest thing to a recurring character in the Reacher universe besides Jack. And that is, what is her name? Neagley, played by Maria Sten. She is not supposed to be in the story they adapted for the first book, but they brought her in. And it works. But the book that they're going to adapt for season 2 is the 11th book in the series, and that focuses on Jack's old unit when he was in the military police. So it's all focused on, you know, Neagley is one of the big parts of it. So I think that's really good that they do have one character coming back. Otherwise, it's a whole new cast of characters. And then at the end of that one, they can wipe it away. And if they want to bring her back again, they can. But otherwise, they just keep going with Alan Ritchson. And in my opinion, Alan Ritchson is what made that show work. The scenes where he is just glaring, you know, the very opening with him just looking at the guy who's mistreating his girlfriend to the point where the guy apologizes and doesn't have to say a word to do it, or breaking the zip ties, or, you know, him beating up the guys out front of the hotel room, which is the equivalent of the scene with Tom Cruise outside of the bar. You know, so I think Richardson did an amazing job with the character, and I expect to see him doing more and more stuff. He was just in Fast and the Furious, but I expect to see him do more and more. I mean, we've seen him in stuff like Teen Titans. We saw him in Smallville. The guy is a lot of fun. He's also got a great singing voice. So I wonder if they're going to be, because he was on American Idol. So it'll be interesting to see if they ever try to combine those two things and give him a reason to be singing. You know, maybe somebody will want to do a remake of Rhinestone Cowboy, the old Dolly Parton, or Rhinestone, excuse me, Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone movie. All right. What I wanted to talk about real quick is coming up with the actor strike and stuff. There's a lot of gaps in what we want to talk about. I can do stuff like shows like this. I could do the Lincoln Lawyer, Witcher season 3. We can cover those things, but I wanted to see if there's any interest in doing other things, like how we were doing the the Jack of Hearts movie special pitch. Now, I want to get back to that. I have every intention of getting back to that and actually working up the pitch. But would you guys have any interest in doing something like that, but with like a one-shot comic? Taking a public domain character, actually working up a script, the whole thing, and doing it live so you guys could see what the writing process is, how it's done, stuff like that. Of course, Ed wants to do crocheting. And that may happen. I have this box of for crocheting superhero figures like Spider-Man. So that might happen. But just wanted to get a feel. I would love to do a comic. That sounds amazing. Okay. So, what did I miss on Nita? Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell game was my favorite. It had a good storyline and great stealth action game plan. I've heard that. I've heard great stuff about the Splinter Cell game. By the way, Nita, I believe you had asked a question last week having to do with Stan Lee saying that Mary Jane Watson was an incarnation of Red Sonja. And that's sort of true. There was a Marvel team up that had Spider-Man and Red Sonja, but it was basically the consciousness of Red Sonja taking over Mary Jane's body and basically being Red Sonja through Mary Jane's body. And I believe they did try to establish that she was a descendant of Red Sonja. That was a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure that was the only time they ever referenced that. So I remember you asking that question as the show ended, so I'm hoping it was you. So I hope that answers that question. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do tomorrow, but it'll be fun. So definitely want to tune in for that. And again, stick around. Comic Collectibles is coming up at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and great stuff all night. So, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Wait. Ed says, ignore the LOL was supposed to be for you. Of course, Ed wants to do crocheting. I think doing a comic would be fantastic. All right, I'm leaning towards that. See if I can get any publisher to go, yeah, if you do one, we'll put out a one shot. But if not, then we'll just do a public domain character or a character that I own. I do own a few. So we'll go from there. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great night.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.